Now, the thing about the Tamiami Trail was it was built in sections. Each county held responsibility building the highway. Well, Lee County could not afford their section. So this man by the name of Captain James Jordan, owner of the Chevalier Corporation, stepped in and started building his own portion called Chevalier Road, today known as Loop Road. At the same time, Lee County lay in bankruptcy. But then this real estate mogul from New York by the name of Baron Collier said to the state, I tell you this, I finished the whole entire road under one condition. You create a new county and name it after me. Well, the state agreed and, money talks. So Collier County, the largest of the counties in Florida, was created, along with the Tamiami Trail, of course. But the problem was this guy had the whole state bought. So the portion that Jordan built was not even considered by the state. And that's how the loop came about.
But what they used to do was, years ago, you didn't have a whole lot of traffic. So they'd have a couple cars at one end of the loop road and at the other end.
Right.
And if they see headlights coming and it was a cop, they would drive a car across the road and block it like if they had an accident. And then somebody would run back to speak and say, shut it down. So they'd shut it down and they could take.
In 1920s, Loop Road was primarily a logging town. But at the heart of the Prohibition era, the legend has it, Al Capone found interest in such secluded location. It enabled him to run a distillery and even a brothel. Some say he owned a hotel there where wealthy politicians and gamblers alike would flock from the big cities like Miami. But this road is better known for those who have lived it. The Gladesman culture, a long forgotten trade in the harsh Florida landscape, was at its prime in a small, notorious bar called the Gator Hook Lodge.
I had come out that weekend with a buddy of mine, a little younger than me, a couple of years younger. I think we were both too young to drink. I know he was. Had an old Ford pickup truck, gun rack in the back with the guns up in the windshield, like we all did back then. And he and I were heading back into town. It was probably on a Saturday. And we were about a mile or so from the Gator Hook Lodge, which is about 2 miles east of us where we are now. And the place was cranked up. I mean, it was a honky-tonk. It was a wild place. And you could hear the music a mile away. And we're heading on back that way, and I'm thinking, well, heck, we just stop there and go in and get us a cold beer on the way back. So as we're getting up close, the music's getting louder and louder and louder, and I pull over just to the right there next to the loop road, get out of the truck, and he's telling me, hey man, they ain't gonna let me in there. I'm too young. Don't worry about it. They don't check IDs or anything out here. So I get out of the truck, he gets out, comes up behind me, and we're walking up towards the front entrance. And as you get up to the entrance, there's 3 steps and then a landing, be the 3rd step. About a 3-foot by 3-foot landing, the door there. And there's big old burly hunter, big old husky guy, big old Bowie knife hanging down one side, big hairy beard, bushy beard, gray hair, and about like me now, but longer beard. And he's chewing tobacco. You see him chewing tobacco stains down the side of his mouth. And he's turned, laying there and facing away from me. And I'm thinking, man, this bear, I don't want to have to deal with him. So I'm trying to creep up there, to get by him and get in the door. And I'm just coming up the steps and I'm about to put my foot up there on the landing when he turns and he looks back around at me. He looks me up and down, and I'm just hadn't put my foot down, and he growls at me. He says, boy! And I freeze. Boy! I said, yes, sir. He looks me up, down again, and he says, you got a gun or a knife on you? No, sir. No, sir, I don't. Well, you better go back over to that truck of yours and get one before you come in here. I swallowed deep. I turned around, headed back over to the truck. My friend followed me, and we got in that truck, cranked it up, and drove straight into Miami.
the Boy Scout troop in Sweetwater in the 50s had a wooden building. It was probably 24 feet wide and maybe 60 feet long. And they were getting ready to build a youth center out of concrete block. The wooden building had been there forever, long before I was born. And so they started building the youth center, and when they completed the youth center, which is still there now, they were going to burn the building down. Back then, you know, they weren't as eco-friendly as we are nowadays, you know, because the world was a more innocent place, or ignorant, one or the other. But my brother said, hey man, sell it to me. I want to take it out to the Glades and put it on some stilts and open a grocery store. So they said, okay, give us $1. You haul it off. So he did, and he got some friends who had a semi-flatbed, and they jacked the building up and backed the semi up underneath it, and then they strapped it down onto the semi, and they slowly took it out to the trail and out to the loop road. Now, you know, Sweetwater's about 50 miles from the loop, and then you had to go a few miles on the loop, and back then, man, it was a rough road. We're talking about the late 50s. So he took it out there, and it was the wet season, so he couldn't back it in, because our land, his land at the time, was all underwater, all of it. It sat on the side of the road for about 5 months until the water went down and the land dried up enough to back that trailer down in. They backed the trailer down in there when the time came, and they built piers, you know, concrete piers, and then lowered or lifted the building up on jacks, pulled the trailer out, and then lowered the building on the piers. And that was the original building, and it was a long, skinny building. And that was, I believe, 1957, the same year I was born.
Home to Florida's most notorious Gladesman, a place where Irvin Rose spent his later years. The Gator Hook Lodge became an icon of the loop. Come along on our next episode as we interview Charles Knight, son of Sweetwater's first chief of police, Jack Knight, as he takes us on a wild ride through time of his childhood memories growing up at the Gator Hook Lodge.
My name is Greg, and I've been coming out to the Loop Road for those 8 years.
And you strictly do bird and wildlife?
Strictly do birds.
Strictly bird photography.
And of course, if a panther walks.
Yeah, that happens once in a while.
25 years and my life is still trying to get up that great big hill of hope for destination. I guess I should have realized when I knew I could, this world isn't made of a brotherhood of man, whatever that means. And so